everyone, and welcome to my new channel. I hope you all enjoy. If you're a fan of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything YouTube channel like I am, some of these things are going to sound familiar. I've watched a lot of those videos, and I think the ideas are really great, so I based some of these things off of those videos. But don't worry, this is my list, and we're going to do things my way. Today I'm going to be going over some of the things I think should be added to or changed in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 dub. These things are in no particular order. This video will contain spoilers for the entire show of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. If you have not watched the show, please turn off this video now and come back after you've watched it. Please note that I will only be using the English names during this video, and I will only be going over the dub. I did not watch the sub of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, so I'm afraid if you're a sub-only viewer, you might be a bit confused. Thank you for understanding. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and let's begin. Number 1. A duel that involves Yuya, Yuto, Yugo, Yuri, Zuzu, Lulu, Selena, and Rin all at once. I don't really know how that would get set up and will probably be kind of confusing, but how cool would that be? Number 2. A duel where Barrett and Roger both challenge the professor at once. Both these people completely disappeared after the Synchro arc, and this would give us a definitive ending for both of them. Roger wants to rule Dodongo City, not hand it over to the professor. He's also pretty much insane, just pointing that out. Barrett would challenge the professor because he wanted to protect Selena, or because he finally saw through the professor's plan. The professor would defeat and card both of them for treachery, solidifying his dueling ability. Number 3. Speaking of solidifying the professor's dueling ability, how about some tag dueling with him and Yuri? The two of them could card some of the characters, then retreat down the hall. Number 4. Wouldn't it be nice if some more characters from the previous show showed up? GX and 5Ds only have 2 main characters each that show up, Zexal only has 1, and Duel Monsters has none? Never mind that, let's have Shark show up. And how about Akiza, Jesse, Joey, Mai, and the nice Bakura while we're at it? I know there's only 2 characters from Zexal compared to 3 from all the other shows, but I honestly couldn't think of another Zexal character that would both be good in duels and make logistical sense. Number 5. Man, GX cameo characters really got the short end of the stick duel-wise in Arc 5, didn't they? Alexis beats these 3 nobodies, and Aether ties with Yu-Gi-Oh! Once, and these are the only not losses either of them get in the entire show? Really? Give them more wins. Or at least more duels where it's not just them losing. How about a few DNFs, or more ties even? Number 6. I really liked the Zark duel. The long continuous duel setup was cool, and the fact that a lot of people got to duel was nice. But it would have been even better had the duel showed better teamwork. You know, playing off each other's moves, leaving cards behind for their teammates, stuff like that. Number 7. Remember those times when you and other U-boys would go crazy? Apparently that's called Berserk mode. But when is that supposed to activate and when is it not? It would have been really nice if the show gave us some more explanation on Berserk mode. Number 8. You dueled all the other U-boys, right? Haha, wrong. The only one of them that Yuya didn't end up dueling was Yugo, despite the fact that one of the openings in the sub apparently showed them and would appear to be a duel. And this could have actually happened during the Friendship Cup. The semifinal matches were Yuya versus Crow and was originally set to be Sergei versus Yugo, but ended up being Sergei versus Jack Atlas. Instead of having Yuya duel Crow, they could have switched Crow and Yugo's matchup so that Yuya dueled Yugo. And the Jack vs. Sergei duel would have still happened since Rocher would have forced Crow out of the tournament in order to get the matchup he wanted. Number 9. This is one that might sound a bit strange, but I think Yuya and Riley should have dueled at some point, and I think Riley should have won. Riley was constantly growing as a duelist during the show, and I think this just would have been a great duel, with a surprise ending to boot. Number 10. Moonchild didn't really fare too well duel-wise, and Sunchild didn't have a single dueling win throughout the entire show. If these two ended up tag dueling, this would get them both more wins. Also, what if these two had a disagreement, ended up dueling each other? That would be an interesting duel, that's for sure. Number 11. Aura versus Selena. This actually makes a lot of sense in my eyes. Right after the Arc League Championship Battle Royale finishes, everyone thinks that Selena is Zuzu. Zuzu and Yuya are basically in denial that they like each other, and Aura has a crush on Yuya, even calling Yuya her duel mate several times during the show. Aura had seen Yugo hugging Zuzu, which only happened because Yugo thought that Zuzu was the girl he had a crush on, but fell into a crack in the ice before learning what was actually going on. Aura got really mad and would challenge Selena to a duel while she still thinks that Selena is Zuzu. Selena would, of course, never turn down a duel at this point in the show, and so would accept. The fact that Selena isn't Zuzu will come out during the duel. Selena would probably win this duel, but it would still be a cool duel to see. Number 12. Zuzu versus Yuri is one of the worst duels in probably the entire franchise. We see Zuzu accept the duel, then see her sometime later running away from Yuri and his dragon, terrified, begging Yuya in her head to come and save her. That is one of the most ridiculously over-exaggerated damsel in distress moments in the entire franchise. Please just make this a normal duel. Zuzu being about to lose, and then the whole Yugo showing up thing would stay the same. But please, please, please just make this a regular duel. Number 13. The Doctor versus the Professor. The Doctor ended up getting carded by the Professor for seemingly no reason. A much better way to handle this would be to have the Doctor lose a duel to the Professor and then get carded for being too weak. Number 14. Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything called the Battle Beast mini-arc the worst arc in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I disagree, but I understand why he would think that. One of the points he brought up was that the mini-arc was literally pointless in the whole scheme of things. Carded a few characters, Jack's entrance scene was in there, and then Yuya, it just got solidified how good of a dueltainer Yuya was, which we already knew. But what if it wasn't so pointless? What if BB showed up in the Zark duel to try and rescue Yuya? That would make it so the whole arc wasn't so pointless. Number 15. Ray ends up defeating Zark for the second time. Kind of. She duels and acts with Riley. However, I think it would have been cool if Ray actually did get revived, and she and Riley continued the trend of properly 2v1ing Zark. Ray would still be the one to defeat Zark, Riley would be there dueling at her side. Number 16. A duel between the Tyler sisters. This again makes a lot of sense. Grace wants to join Yuya's side, but Gloria is resistant to the idea. Grace would end up winning because they do end up joining Yuya's team, but this would still be so cool to watch. Number 17. Kite versus Zane Truesdale. I know. But before you say Zane wasn't even in Arc 5, hear me out. I wasn't the one that noticed this, so I don't know if it's in the sub or the dub or both, but Zane's name did appear on a blackboard. So yes, he actually was in Arc 5. Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything made a video discussing this in more detail, so you should really go check that out. But basically, what Dylan said was that he thinks Zane was a scout in the Seas dimension like Dennis was, and Kite found out, dueled him, and ultimately carded him. This would be such an epic duel that I'm very disappointed that they didn't show it at all, or even mention it. But it has to show the whole duel, none of what happened when they showed Yusho versus Aster. That worked for the one duel and that was it. Number 18. After the Lancers defeat Zark, Ray's spirit was gone for good, and Zark is ultimately destroyed forever. But what if they were to come back at the end? Zark's spirit is completely taken out of the U-Boys. Why couldn't they do the same for Ray's spirit and have her come back? And the evil would have been taken out of Zark, so he would come back as a good person, as a dueltainer he was to begin with. The U-Boys could duel Zark to help him find the correct path again, and show him that he can still dueltain. Number 19. A Crow versus Jack Turbo duel. Did I really need to explain how awesome this would be? If you watch 5Ds, you understand. If you didn't watch it, go watch it and then you'll understand. Number 20. This is only a small thing, but Dexter from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds actually appears in Arc 5, watching the Friendship Cup with his family. Why couldn't they show Leo and Luna watching the duel with him instead of his family? Or even with his family? His family could be there and Leo and Luna would be too. Why couldn't they do that? After all, Dexter is their best friend. Number 21. While Yuya is dueling Aster for the second time, why don't we just solidify how OP Kite is? How about we have 100 Obelisk Force members show up and have Kite wipe the floor with all of them in one turn? That would be so amazing. Number 22. What if the Professor is defeated by someone other than Zark? What if Yusho ends up stopping the Professor in the duel, but the reactor isn't shut down because the Professor made it so even if he lost, the reactor would still go. It would still continue. This would keep the whole Zark duel the same for the most part. The Yuya versus the Professor duel would still have the same ending. Yusho would run off to tell Kite and Aster what was going on. Kite and Aster run off to try and stop the Yuri versus Yugo duel, but Yuri traps him in a cage, so they can't duel. They manage to snap Yugo out of berserk mode with their words, but the same ending happens where Yuri wins. After telling Aster and Kite what was going on, Yusho heads back to try and stop the reactor. Declan tries to help Yusho, but Riley stops him, and the Riley vs. Declan duel occurs with the same ending. The duels ended about the same time, and that's when Yuri bursts through the wall into the room, and the Yusho vs. Yuri duel would happen. Most things stay the same, but we get an extra amazing duel in the process, with a surprise ending to boot, because nobody thinks the professor is going to lose. But then he does. Number 23. I personally don't have a problem with action cards, and I think they fit into Arc 5 really well. But it would be nice to see some variation in the way they're used. And how about they add some more action traps for more variety? You know, like a risk versus reward thing. Number 24. More duels for Zuzu after her duel with Yuri. And she could actually have a rematch with Yuri later on. During the fusion arc, Iggy, Arlo, and Yuya would move to another spot for the duel, far enough away from Zuzu so that her bracelet doesn't activate. Silvio and Gong are busy dueling, everybody surrounding them trying to capture Zuzu. Meanwhile, Yuri shows up and ends up defeating Zuzu in a duel, while Gong and Silvio are too busy facing everybody else to help her against Yuri. The mind-controlled Selena grabs Zuzu, and they take off back to Duel Academy with her. Number 25. Since there's some kind of romantic relationship between the U-Boy and Bracelet Girl pairs from 3 of the 4 dimensions, how about a triple date? Yuri and Selena can duel each other in some kind of mind space during the whole thing, since they'd rather duel than date. Number 26. Yuto takes over Yuya's body during the Xyz arc and duels Sai because he's upset about her not jumping in to help Lulu when Yuri took her. Alan joins part of the way through the duel to help Saya, and Yuya tries to calm Yuto down. Number 27. The Declan vs. Shade duel actually happening instead of Declan talking his way out of it. Rematch could happen later in the Synchro arc when Shade tries to turn Dennis into a card and realizes that Declan sabotaged his duel disc. And there we have it. Those are things that I think should be added to or changed in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 dub. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out the Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything channel. And everyone, please have a great day.